On today's show, I'm going to talk about something, and I'm not going to be politically correct about it. So I'm just going to be very, very straightforward out here because it is crazy out here in this accounting and finance field because there are so many business owners that are constantly reaching out to me and they are complaining about sucky accountants. And so today we're going to talk about this, and I have no idea what the name of this conversation may end up being, but it is going to be a good one because we're going to talk about the common complaints that business owners have about accountants and why I think a lot of accountants should be fired because they're not doing a good job. And we're going to talk about it on today's show. So stay tuned. So welcome back. Now, I want to welcome in my co-host for today, Lola Turner. Welcome to the show, Lola.
Hello. Happy to be here. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our guest.
Awesome. So today, I mean, we're going to talk about something that I've been pretty fired up about today. Well, not just today. It's something I've been fired up for a couple weeks. I mean, because it's so true. They're like, I remember yesterday when I got off a call with a client. Client called me and I was just like, hey, so-and-so, how's it going? He was like, oh, I've had better days. And I was like, okay, that's not good. Hopefully today goes better. And when he told me what happened, when he told me what happened, I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, some people in this world really suck. I mean, because
suck professionally.
I mean, it's just like there was no excuse for what happened to where I'm just like, really? And like this, and I'll be honest with you, the problem that happened because they used to do business with another accountant in this region is what I'm going to say. Another accountant in this region. And this accountant is supposedly has this great reputation. And I looked and I said, this is absolutely crappy work by this accountant. Like there's a part of me, I always wanted to say, you know what? We need to report him to the CPA bar in the region because
listen.
I mean, and I know it might be and then I was like, okay, let me calm myself down. Might be being a little extreme. But I was hot and I was trying to keep it together for the client because I didn't want the client to know like how upset I was about this because I'm like, yo, this is crappy work. Like I almost wanted to be one of those things to tell my client like, you know what, we should probably do an ad and target it to that guy's business. Like I wish there was a way for us to create an ad and to target it to all of his customers because I'm like, that is crappy work. Like you don't need to be doing accounting for other people if you're going to be making mistakes like that.
You're on a roll today.
I mean, like I said, I was very hot about it. I mean, and I would say for those of you that are watching and listening, so let me fill you in on, what really bothered me about this. And there's a little bit of a backstory with this. So, this client reached out to me. Well, actually, it was a friend that I had worked with, probably when I first started my career, her and I met. So this was like back in like 2007 when I met the mutual friend. She's an accountant. She's a lawyer now. And she was like, hey, there's an organization that's looking for someone to do the bookkeeping. So she connected me, the two of us. I met with them. They like me. I like them. So we signed a contract. We started supporting their organization. Now, in the process of doing that, there was some data that we needed because this was like a mid-year transition. So we were trying to set up some things with payroll, and we needed some information from the prior accountant. Now, the prior accountant was non-responsive, and some of the information that the accountant shared was a bit sloppy to where we're like, you had all these questions like, hey, I understand that this may not be in your best interest to be losing a client, but this is no way to act professional. Like,
Right.
if the person who used to be your client is asking you for information, you don't treat them like this. I mean, they've paid you for years. They were paying you. And you mean to tell me like this is how you're going to do them? I'm like, this to me, it seemed like a sloppy, like high school breakup. Like, you broke up with me. I'm going to treat you some kind of way or whatever.
Yeah, no, and I think the other thing also is the maturity, like you said, the high school thing, but also maturity because there's temptations to be petty, but ultimately, if you're truly doing what is in the best interest, you have to think about, is this in the best interest of the client? Like, I know that, hey, sometimes it's like, okay, you're just so focused on grinding, just so focused on increasing your clientele, just so focused on getting new clients, but you really got to do what's in the best interest of your client. And in that situation, he or she did not do what was in the best interest of their client at the moment, right? And so the mistake that they made, and I go back to this is one of the things I think I tell myself often, when we're dealing with our clients, is sometimes it's easy, especially as accountants, to really get focused on the numbers and to kind of take the humanity out of the numbers. I mean, I think that's what we're paid for. That's what we're good for, is just to say, hey, listen, this is what the numbers tell you. The numbers don't lie. But oftentimes, I think it's easy to forget that there is a human behind those numbers, and there's a family behind those numbers, and there are people that are making decisions about their business. It's going to impact their lives. And so when you think about it really from that perspective, and you don't just see people as a transaction, you see certain situations as a transactional situation, it definitely helps you think about doing what's in the best interest of the client. And I fully agree. I mean, I've seen situations where people have explained stuff to me and I'm like, how did you even get away with this? Like, how did you even think that as an accountant, this was a good idea? And I think the problem is people forget in accounting. Oftentimes, some accountants forget the role they're supposed to be playing. You're not supposed to be your business owner's friend. You're not supposed to be your business owner's, hey, I'm just here to put the numbers and send it back to you. Like, you're here to be a guide. You're here to provide insight. You're here to help provide guidance. And they pay you because you have the ability, or you should have the ability, to do something that they're unable to do, which is to give them the financial insight that they need, not just put numbers together and be like, okay, this is it. Like, all right, bye. It's like, and in some cases, like even in situations where we've seen where people put stuff together and you're like, dang, like my younger sister who is in middle school probably could have done a better job here. And it's like, at this point, the challenge you run into then is, people are frustrated, business owners are frustrated because, hey, it's like, I'm paying you all this money. You only talk to me once a year during tax season, or you only talk to me. Like, I remember, I remember.
I will say before you go too further, can I finish the story I was telling?
Oh, I
Because
thought
I
you
think
finished your story.
no, I'm not finished the story.
Oh, okay.
That was
Sorry, my
just the
bad.
backstory.
Oh
Was
gosh,
during
please
the
finish your
transition.
story.
Okay, so
Finish your story.
during the transition of when we were onboarding the client and we were taking over the client's account, the prior account, it gave some pushback. There were some things that it didn't respond to. And so I told the client, I was like, hey, next time you talk to the client, just ask them like, hey, if I can reach out and ask them some questions. They came back, they responded almost immediately to the client and said, well, no, we don't want another accountant reaching out to us and stuff. So here's the information that you needed. And I'm like,
which doesn't make
if
any
you
sense.
had
That's
the
shady.
information, I'm like, if you had the information already, like, why did you wait so long to like hand it over? And so now, like I said, we've been taking over working on this account for like, 3 months now. And so there's an open question that I've been having. Like one of their employees, they were, making contributions to a individual retirement account. And so I've been asking like, hey, we're going to need the routing number, the information, so we can, transfer the money each pay period to this account. And so they were like, okay, yeah, we'll work on that. We'll get that, because that was something the last accountant set up. So, so fast forward to yesterday, I was having a conversation with the client when I called and he was like, hey, I've had better days. Like, okay, what's going on? Anything I can help with? He was like, well, I called the financial institution that we were making these individual retirement account payments to. And they said they don't have any deposits on file since 2015. And I'm like, it is 2022. I'm just like, just,
7 whole years.
I'm just like,
Wow.
how did this mistake happen? And he was like,
Tired.
I have no idea. And
Wow.
it's like we're,
That's
we're
sad.
thinking like, okay, all right, the money hasn't been going there. Now, when you look at the person's paycheck, it shows a deduction. Every pay period it's been showing a deduction, but I'm just like, where has the money been going?
That's a
And
good
so
question.
I called the last accountant. I left him a message and he was like, if they don't respond, I'm just going to stop by their office, because I'm like, this is what I call sloppy work. And
Yeah.
all of this transpires because the firm they were working with, the guy that they were working with, his reputation is known more so for filing taxes. And I'm just like,
Mm.
yo, if you really want to be a person who files taxes, don't jump into bookkeeping if you don't know what you're doing. Like
Patience to the
bookkeeping,
choir.
processing payroll, if you don't know what you're doing, because then you're just going to screw over the business, because you want to build them, on a monthly basis instead of only just doing their taxes. To where I'm just like, that's why I was like, immediately when I heard it, I'm like, I want to report this guy to the CPA Society because this is foolishness.
No, that yeah, that I really want to know where that money is going, but that's a different conversation. But no, I
We're
think that is
searching.
yeah, that's
We're
very
searching.
concerning. 7 years, and I mean, if you think about it from a cash flow standpoint, I mean, if that money is if that money, let's just say, I don't know, the numbers are fake. I mean, the money is going somewhere, but let's say the money is never leaving the account. Now you have to catch up the employee that you've been paying, and it's like, does your company and does your business even have does your organization even have the cash flow to do that? So I swear, this is why I go back to the statement that I made. Like, these are people's lives. Like, when you
Yeah.
approach situations and you approach numbers and you approach insight, like having conversations, you're like, listen, like, this is somebody's life. Like, there are business owners behind these numbers. And I think for me, that really keeps that thing in perspective. Like, I was having a meeting with a client a couple of months ago, and one of the things that, the feedback or things that she told me is just like, hey, like, this decision or understanding these specific numbers will help me determine if I should acquire another business or not. Like, people are taking this data and actually using it to make decisions. And so for me, I'm like, it's so important to really think about how can I present my information? How can I support my business owner in a way, in a way that is going to help advance their business and help advance their life? And I think a lot of people aren't really thinking about that. They think about it just very transactionally. Um, and another thing that I thought about, and I know we've talked about this example before, but another incident I think about is the story where we had a situation where, like, I guess the old accountant had, I think, if I remember correctly, I might get the story wrong, Terrell, so please fill in the gaps where I am. But it was the one about, like, the tax return at the end of the year, owing at the end of the year. Do you know what I'm starting, before you tell the story, do you know what I'm starting to realize the trend is here? A lot of the people we're finding that have had issues with their accountants are people who do taxes and then just happen who have started doing taxes and then offered bookkeeping as an add-on service. Because
Yeah.
what I'm noticing is that that's where the gap is, because you are only good at taxes. Why are you doing bookkeeping? Why are you doing bookkeeping? Why are you doing payroll? Like, and I think maybe that's something we have to start pushing as a red flag. Like, hey, signs to look for that your accountant may be crappy. Like, sign number one, starts out doing your tax return and then offers, initially that offering is not even on their website. And then when you do their taxes, after they do your taxes, and they tell you, oh, by the way, we can do your bookkeeping for you. Like, that sounds a little bit shady to me, especially if it's not a service that they are offering on a day-to-day basis, and it's more of like an add-on. They're not advertising it. There's no reviews for it. Like, no one's talked about. There's no clients, other clients. So for me, it's just like, I'm starting to realize that there's a pattern, that the ones that do the tax returns and then try to add on the bookkeeping tends to be the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a industry problem where a lot of people, from an economic standpoint, like what I will say is this is the type of stuff that, that your accountant may not be explaining to you, is how an accounting firm works. Like how they're like, as they're trying to help you manage your cash flow, they're trying to manage their own cash flow. So for a lot of people who do taxes, one of the issues that they were running into is that all of their money came, related to tax season. So what they were trying to figure out is, how do we make money the rest of the year? Now, there are a lot of
Mhm.
people who they make a lot of money during tax season because they do a ton of taxes. But
Right.
they're, after not being able to find competent employees who want to work, or employees who understand it, or employees who are competent with tax returns, a lot of them have said like, hey, we aren't going to be able to do as many tax returns. So we need to find another way to make money throughout the year. And so a lot of accounting firms started doing bookkeeping, even though they never actually understood bookkeeping. But they just feel like, hey, I know how to read a financial statement, then I should be able to do bookkeeping. But I'm like, there are some things that you really do have to understand about bookkeeping
Hmm.
if you're going to do it properly. And so I think for a lot of people, what I always tell them is like, I had a call with a law firm this past week, and was asking them, hey, about their financials, because, we were doing some consulting. So I'm trying to help them understand what's in their financial statements. And I was like, oh, okay, do you have a copy of your financials? They're like, well, I don't have an updated copy. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it was like, are you working with an accountant? You're like, and she, like I said, her response just made me
All right,
laugh.
this is gonna be funny. What was her response? What was her response?
And I could tell it was an authentic response, because when I said, I was like, oh, are you working with an accountant? Her literal response was, I hate that lady. I'm like, wow. And she was like, maybe
Oh my
that's
God.
that's a little bit strong.
Yo,
And
listen.
she said, maybe that's a little strong. We have a love-hate relationship. Like, we've had a lot of, as she said in her words, we've had a lot of heart-to-heart come Jesus moments with her about, I need her to get this stuff done because she's supposed to be doing the bookkeeping on a monthly basis. She's not getting it done. Like, now she's been pretty decent about, the tax return, but the tax returns are delayed because the bookkeeping's not getting done. And so then she gets to, this crunch time where she's supposed to be doing it all at once. And then it just becomes a headache for me. And she was like, I'm really thinking about firing her. And I'm like, okay, I was saying,
Immediately, yes.
I was like, if you really like, I was like, she's had this relationship with her for a while. And I'm like, if you really like her, maybe what we need to do is separate the tax work and the bookkeeping work. And she was
Hmm.
like, you know what? I think that probably would really make the relationship work better. I'm like, we need to probably find somebody else to do the bookkeeping, because that doesn't sound like that's her skill set, and she doesn't have processes to do that well. She may have
Yeah.
processes to get the taxes done, but she doesn't have processes to get the bookkeeping done. So maybe we need to separate that. But yeah, when she said I hate that lady, I almost lost it on the call.
Oh my gosh. See, that's another thing. That's another red flag. If you have a love-hate relationship with your accountants, or you cannot stand, or you dread having conversations with your accountants, like I understand tax season because you're like, I don't know what I'm going to owe. That's a different conversation. But if you dread having conversations with your accountant, that is another red flag. I'm creating a list now. So number one, if they do taxes and then add on bookkeeping. Number two, if literally you hate, like that is a strong reaction. Definitely.
Yeah,
Wow.
it
Yeah.
was. And I mean, because
Very
that was
strong.
like that was her initial reaction. I'm like, you know what? I'm one of those people who believe, like, even in jokes, there's a little bit of truth embedded in jokes, where
Yeah.
she may have been, somewhat joking, but there's a part of her that definitely
Oh
does
yeah.
kind of hate that relationship.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
like, we can do one of two things. We can repair the relationship, or we can completely end it. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, so my recommendation to her was like, hey, let's see what we can do on the repair side. And if that works and makes the relationship work, then good. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, for what I always tell other accountants is, you know what, know what you are good at. Like, our firm, we don't really do tax returns. There is like one, maybe two tax returns that we did. No, I think it was like three tax returns we did last year. And one of them, I told them at the end of the tax season, I was like, hey, I think you guys have graduated from what we can provide. And she was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, you're firing us. But like, we love working with you. But I'm like, taxes is not the thing that we do. Like,
Right.
bookkeeping is where we really focus, and then CFO services, because I'm like, we're really good at those two things. But I
Right.
think a lot of accountants don't really step back and get honest with themselves and say, hey, if I'm good at taxes, let me not try to do everything else. Because another
Right.
area that I've seen, and I have some friends, really good friend, Randy Crabtree over at Trimerit, where they focus on tax credits. Because I've
Hmm.
seen a lot of people that, hey, oh, these tax credits came out. Hey, we can help you with your tax credit. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
I don't
goodness.
trust
Yeah.
you. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll
A
trust
lot of
Randy.
fraud. Yeah. A
I'm
lot of
like,
fraud.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
I'll
very true.
trust Randy because that is all that they do is tax credit. So I'm like, I trust that they know what they're doing. You just saw something online, you watched the webinar, and now you're an expert on this. I don't trust you to send my clients to you because you're going to jack up their life and you don't have to sign off on the tax return. Somebody else is going to have to sign off on it. And I
Right.
do think it becomes very important is, when you're working, with an accountant, or if you are an accountant, it's just be honest about what you do and be good at what you do. And for that other stuff, if you're not good at it, like, don't jump in there and start playing around and messing up somebody else's business.
Somebody else's life. For me, that's
Yeah.
the part. Somebody else's life. Like, this is not a plaything. A lot of people are doing this full time. Like, that's their business, that's their life. So when you have that approach and you have that mindset, it definitely changes how you approach situations. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I just finished a cleanup project today, and I was working on like cleaning up their accounting. And the lady and I, we had a conversation, and she called me actually when I was on my way to the UK. And actually, I had just gotten to the UK. I was in my hotel relaxing, and she had left me a voicemail, and on the voicemail she says, "Hey Terrell, she was a guest on the show like maybe like a year and a half ago, and she was like,
Mm.
hey, we in our business, we seem to have gotten ourselves into a very tight bind. I just had to fire our accountant because they were not getting the job done. I need a good accountant to help clean up this mess that they've made. And when I got in there and started working on some stuff, and I'm just like, okay, all right, this is some crappy work.
Bunch of nonsense.
Because some of it, I was looking at it like, it looks like they just tried to use year-end journal entries to just fix all this stuff instead of actually just going in and doing the work. And
Oh wow. What
I'm
a
just like,
mess.
there was like, for some of those journal entries, I'm like, there's no support, no explanation. I'm like, even the stuff that she had run through and done the calculations for him on some of the stuff. She had provided some of the statements, and she said, hey, here, she even highlighted some of the stuff in the statements and gave it to him, and he still got the entries wrong. And I'm just like, okay,
That is not, are
like,
you sure that is an accountant?
I'm
Because
just
that
like,
was like the basic debit and credit was like that's they teach you that, don't they teach you that? Is that intermediate 101 accounting?
I'm not like, I
Listen,
learned that in
it's
high school when
basic.
I took an
It's basic.
introduction to
It
accounting.
is basic. It is basic knowledge. See,
But
listen, we need
but
to
yeah,
do,
so,
you know what we need to do? We need to create a quiz where it's like, hey, like if your accountant can't answer these questions, they're probably not accountants. I think we should put that on the website because I am really concerned. Like the more that you and I have these conversations and the more that we interact with other clients, the more I even become more concerned, and I understand how crucial and critical it is for us to have the show, because I'm like, if you don't know any better as a business owner, you're just focused on running your business and you're trusting that your accountant is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then you run against a brick wall when like you find out that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or that they completely got it wrong. And then you have to fix it. And it just takes so much time, so much more money. Like, for example, now, unfortunately, all the money that she's paid to that accountant, I mean, it's gone down the drain because they made a mistake. Now she's having to pay us and our company to fix the mess. And it's like, man, like if you had just gotten this right the first time, it would have given you peace of mind, because you know that is one less area of your business you have to worry about because somebody is doing it right. Right. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, there have been, what I find to be interesting sometimes is there have been some business owners who have come to our firm. They're clients of ours, and because we put out a lot of great content, like
Mhm.
their old accountant, which I know the client has told me, like, hey, this person I was using, I'm not very happy with work that they've done and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, cool. We'll get it all cleaned up. And because we put out so much content, like I've had some people reach out to me, like that bad accountant that they left, reach out and it's like, hey, I see you do great things. Maybe we can refer some clients to each other. And in my head, I'm
Immediately,
thinking,
no.
like, I already know about the quality of your
You're
work.
not good. Sorry. Immediately, no. We are not referring any clients to anywhere, to you. You can refer clients to us. I actually strongly recommend it based on your track record, but we will not be referring any clients to you for their sanity and for the best interest of their business. So no,
Yeah,
no.
and so I mean, and I think, like I said, at the end of the day, I do think one of the big things for for accountants is make sure you understand what you're good at, and even for business owners is really asking, if you're working with an accountant, ask them like, hey, what type of accounting do you do? Because not all accountants are made equal. Like we are CPAs, but we don't focus on tax. So like I can answer some general questions and I can have a conversation with your tax preparer or your enrolled agent because I
Mhm.
know the questions to ask. But I'm like, I'm not studying updates on tax laws to know them in and out to be the best tax advisor for you because that's just not what we do. So if you're a business owner, you want to ask, hey, what type of accounting do you do? What's been what other types of clients do you have? Because when you ask them, if they're like, hey, we do a lot of tax work, but you're talking to them about bookkeeping work, then you want to understand, like, hey, what makes them qualified to handle? For most people, your business is your most valuable financial asset. So it's
Right.
just like, what makes them qualified to be able to handle or properly handle your most valuable asset? If they can't explain that to you or get you comfortable with that, then it's okay for you not to, it's okay for you to just say, hey, you can do my tax return, but I'm going to find a different bookkeeper. One is it gets a different set of eyes on things so you can have that checks and balance on things to really help, make sure that you're getting the best type of service from both parties.
No, that's
And I
good.
also think, a really good one is, is when it comes down to bookkeeping, is at the end of the day, there are some people who just do bookkeeping. And this is a common thing that I hear where people say, like, hey, my bookkeeper just sends me a report at the end of the month. And I'm just like, they're saying that, hey, I don't really understand what's in the reports. I don't understand what's going on. But I'm just like, hey, if that person cannot take the time to really help you understand what these reports mean, even if they're just like, hey, these are the three
Couple
things
bullet
you need to
points.
really pay
Yeah.
attention to. Like, if they
Right.
don't have the decency to take that time with you, I'm like, they're
Mhm.
probably not the best, bookkeeper for you. They may be good at what they do, but they just may not be good for you if they can't really take the time to really just, even if it's just sending you an email like, hey, here are the three things you should pay attention to. If you don't walk away from that relationship feeling like, hey, working with them has helped me understand what's going on in my business financially, they
Mhm.
might not be the right bookkeeper for you. They may be
Mhm.
good, they just may not be good for you. And it's okay for you to make a different decision and to go with someone else. So
Yeah.
I always say that. And in another episode, we're going to talk about, like, what are some of the things you should expect from accountants, what should you expect from your bookkeepers, because there's a lot of confusion about that, because a lot of people I meet, they don't know what they don't know that,
Mhm.
hey, my bookkeeper actually, or my accountant sucks, because they just don't know what they should be doing. Well, in
Yeah.
another episode, we're going to talk about what you should expect, so that you can tell whether you have an accountant that sucks, or whether you have a good accountant, or whether you just need to have a little tweak to the relationship that you have with your accountant. So I will say thank you guys so much for tuning in. And thank you for indulging my animated
Right.
self today. I'm a little hyped up. I'm a little hyped up from, like I said, the craziness of helping clients navigate that. But it's because, we're passionate about making sure
We
that
care.
people are not
Right.
wasting their money working with the
Yeah.
wrong people. So continue to tune in. This is another great episode of The Stuff Your Accountant Isn't Telling You.
Hey, it's your girl Tia Robertson. I'm the host of Entrepreneur Insider. Right here on RETV every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for entrepreneurs and news that you need to know about. See you there.
Tune in to Millionaire Man Cave, only on Relationship Entertainment Television, Tuesdays at 8 p.m.
This is Tyron
and Nicole with your weekly RATV news break. Each Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, we'll come to you with the latest news, trends, and more with a positive spin.
We know there's a lot of positive news that doesn't get reported, but we want to give you the opportunity to share your story here on RATV. If you have a positive news story you want us to share, you can submit your story to news@re-tv.net.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Relationship Entertainment Television YouTube channel. Download the new RATV Live app on your mobile device and follow Relationship Entertainment Television on your favorite social media platform.
Don't forget, make sure you tune into the RATV News Break each Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be blessed and be great.
Welcome to What's Going On? My name is Demita Joe. Each Wednesday, you can find me here at 3 p.m. I'll be over here discussing different things that are going on and try to bring you a boost of positivity for your week, because we all need this. We're going to share some feel-good stories. We might find a hometown hero. We may take a look at some trending topic. And sometimes we might even find a lesson in a not-so-warm and fuzzy story if we can. I'm Demita Joe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode right here on What's Going On?